Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, depending on what part of the earth you're in or at. I am so happy to welcome Paul and M-
Mieke
Mika.
Benton.
You see, I got stuck on it, but I promise I'll pronounce it
Think about
right.
yourself first. Me and then Ke, Mieke.
Mika. Okay, perfect.
And
And
please.
Paul and Mika Benton, thank you for joining me. We met at GSIC, the Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection, correct? And it was lovely because I was, we were ready to get into, we were in line and we were just ready to get into the conference, and we started, just chatting away, and Abigail was there, and it just flew. It was so much flow in it that we kept in contact, and we spoke since then a few times, and we just have so many wonderful exchange and experiences. And with that said, you had written, both of you, a beautiful book that I read that's called, if I may, yeah,
Sure.
My Life is a Mystery, which just stood out, and the picture, which I'll show up maybe if I may, a little bit
Yeah.
later.
Sure.
It was beautiful. I mean, just the two of you dancing and the stars in the background, that just gave me, I felt it. Um, there's so much to talk about, and your book is so rich. I guess, if I may, maybe a little bit about uh, who and you and Paul are, a little bit about yourself, if you would like to start, just brief.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Shall I start?
Sure.
Okay. So I am Mieke Benton and I'm born in Belgium in 1970. And to get straight to the point here, I had some experiences as a very young child. So I had abduction experiences. And the earliest I can recall is about age 2.5, which I
Wow.
didn't have much way to verbalize what I was experiencing. And that kind of happened through my childhood years, through my teenage years, and I am still discovering.
Mm.
It's not a clear-cut story. So that is what I recall since very early on. I was a very sensitive child. I perceive and feel many things from many
Mhm.
people. I also saw things and felt things from the non-seen world, like ghosts or
Mhm.
just energies. Um, yeah, so, and I lived my life in Belgium like any other teenager. I was born in a bookstore. My grandparents opened a bookstore and then my parents took over. So I had a lot of information on my fingertips, which was helpful because I had all these experiences. I had no idea what they were. So in the books, I looked up, figuring out who am I, what is this world
Mhm.
about, what's going on here in this world, why did I experience, why I'm experiencing. So I was very interested in finding the truths behind my existence because what I was shown in the world and in school,
Mhm.
my experiences had no place there. Nobody talked about it, right? So how do you do with that? So I looked in books and libraries, and so that was helpful to have a bookstore to be born in to figure out some things.
It's
So
funny
that was
that you
kind
say bookstore. Now it's internet, but you were so
yeah,
fortunate to have the books right in front of you. That's
yeah,
awesome. Sorry, go
yes.
ahead.
And I love to read. So that was helpful. So many things happened during my childhood. I mentioned many things in the books, unexplained mysteries. And they all caught my attention. Like, what does this mean? Why did I experience that? And I can go into some of those experiences.
Absolutely.
That's kind of my framework here from my start. And maybe Paul, you can share some of yours.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So um, I was born in Oregon in the U.S. in 1949. So a number of years before Mika was born, and was studying. Um, I had a degree in practice dentistry, and that in a certain instant after I'd been in practice a few years, totally changed my career path. And that had to do with meeting two alien beings that showed up in my operatory. And that just completely switched everything, because it was nothing like I had been trained to be, nothing that was known, and yet the experience was so dramatic. Um, Mostly because what I'd had is uh, I had a severe headache one day,
Mm.
Vicki, and I think it's the book, the story's in the book. And so I sent my staff home, locked up the office. I mean, seriously, and I don't get headaches. It was a severe, severe headache. So I just lay down in my dental chair, see if I could get this to go away. So I turned off the lights, locked the doors. So I was in there by myself, and I'm trying to get rid of this headache. And all of a sudden, I'm alerted by two beings that were in my operatory with me, standing behind my dental chair. And this was
Mm.
a little bit upsetting. And then they said, well, I said, what are you doing here? And they said, we noticed you have a headache. And I said, oh yeah, horrible one, very, very bad. And they produced object that was about 18 inches long and maybe an inch and a half around, and I could see it out of the corner of my eyes. They were behind me. Very little light in this room, just a little bit of light from street lights from the window that was in the operatory. So I'm looking around. They have this thing, and they waved this over my head like 3 times, and they says, "Oh, well, the reason you have a headache is because you have a brain tumor." And that was shocking to me. It's like, I could think of nothing worse at that time to have a brain tumor starting in practice. So they said, well, not to worry. And Vicki, I don't know if they were speaking to me in English or if it was just telepathic. I don't know. To me, it came through as English. And so, very, very easy communication. Well, they do something to this device, and then they wave that over my head again. And in a very few seconds,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 30 seconds, the headache's gone. And they said, there, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And that was also shocking, but it was also very, very exciting, because
Mm-hmm.
to me, it's like, well, if you have something that can cure, first diagnose and then cure a brain tumor in a matter of minutes, that could be very useful on this planet.
Absolutely.
They first told you have a brain tumor.
Right. They told me I have a brain tumor.
Yeah.
Reason you have a headache is because you have a brain tumor. And then they did this again, and they said, there, it's gone. So the pain disappeared, and they said, well, there, it's gone. So I assumed that the brain tumor was also gone.
Well.
So, I mean, it just went from severe headache, if you've ever had one, to nothing,
Mm-hmm.
to just fine
Yeah.
in a very, very short period of time. I was like, so that was really got my attention. So I said, well, where could I get one of those things? Because it was, amazing. And they says, well, we'll send you one. And I'm thinking, okay, well, that's great. And I thought, well, where do you live? And I thought, maybe Vicki, I'd meet them halfway. If they were in Ohio or something, I could, meet them halfway, being in Oregon. And they said, well, we'll send you one. I says, great. Where do you live? And they point straight up, Vicki, and there was nothing above me but nothing. It was a little two-story building in a small town in Oregon. Nothing up there that I was aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, oh, okay. So they said, we'll send you one. And I said, great.
FedEx.
So,
I'm just kidding.
I checked FedEx, UPS, the mail, and everything, thinking that this would show up quite, fairly shortly. Well, it didn't. It didn't
Huh.
show up.
Well,
And
time is
so,
irrelevant, right?
well, kind of irrelevant, but I really wanted this thing to show up, because I really wanted to learn what it was like and how to use it, and the
Wow.
whole scientific backstory of how these things worked. So they said, okay, we'll send you one. So they disappear. I come to it, again in my office, a short nap, and then I'm there. I don't know how short of a nap it was, because I could have been gone for hours or
Yep.
minutes. Not
Yep.
sure. And so I wake up, everything's good. I bring my dental chair up and get out. The doors are still locked. The lights are off. So however this happened, they got in, did this, whatever this was with me, and got out without going through a door.
Wow. So was this your first experience which made you change your life afterwards? Because you said, I mean, I know we're going a little forward, but
No,
just
that was what
the
made me change my career path.
career path. Okay.
But I'd already had an not an encounter. I had seen a friend of mine were up in the mountains near
Mm-hmm.
Mount Hood in Oregon,
Mm-hmm.
and we were watching this light fly across a ridge that was in front of us. We said, that's really strange because this is up in the mountains, right? It's a very strange place for an airplane. So we were watching it, and it goes across in front of us, and then takes off 90-degree turn and takes
Wow.
off in a fly. I mean, just bing. And we're looking at each other, a friend of mine, and said, that isn't from around here. We don't have anything like that. So we were just out of high school, but we did know that, about the space age, the space race and all those kind of things, but nothing like that. So that was my first experience that I knew for sure.
That you remember.
That I remember. Yeah, it was the first one that I remember, Vicki.
Yeah.
That something else was going on here, and that we weren't alone. So that was very clear that was going on.
It seems like it started to, in your mind through time, as you're going through this journey,
Yes.
you start to think about what's going on here, because obviously that's not what we talk about,
No,
especially
again,
back in the day,
right. So that was first saw that it was 1969, and then
Wow.
when I had the experience with them into my operatory, it was like 1979, 10 years later.
Mm.
But still, you don't, in a small town, you start telling people, yeah, I got visited by, right. Not only that, the people just, they don't want to have
Yeah.
anything to do with you.
Yeah.
And so I didn't tell anyone. And I didn't really actually tell anyone. I told a couple people, but
Yeah.
it was so woo-woo and such a,
Yeah.
a laugh deal that I didn't.
Hence why we're here now. And that's why, before we continue, I wanted to make sure that the audience understood that the reason why we're doing this, and we talked about it previously, is that we want to make it normal because it is normal. Does it make sense? We just obviously, make long story short, we've been told differently. So that was out of our vision. But some of us are still more intuitive with these things. Others, for whatever reason, are not, but they do have these abilities, correct?
Exactly. And many people can't talk with anybody,
Mm-hmm.
right? We are lucky we have each other. But many people don't have a place to talk about it. And that's kind of why we're sharing, because the more everybody shares their truth, the more other people feel like they have permission to share their own truth. So,
And it recognizes that we're not just this person that's in this world working and paying bills and running around like a chicken without a head, right?
right, exactly.
It's like, wait a second, there's more to this. And this is very empowering in my opinion, right? I mean, to know that there's more to it than meets the eye, and it's magical. Am I?
Well, it opens up a whole different, what I want to say, so much more is available if we are not alone in the universe and that we actually being visited, because how do they get here? Who are they? What do they want? I mean, so much opens up. And we know now, of course, that we've had aliens visit us and had talked to our presidents and to our different ruling people, and that's been going on for a long time, but it was never made openly admitted to the common people or the normal people.
I think at one point it was, but it changed, and slowly but surely, it just, all these books and all these teachings and so forth were burnt or either put away, or and we're born into a time where we're just taught what they wish to teach us. And if we didn't have that inquisitive mind, like that curiosity, like we did, we probably would be just our merry way and doing the same thing over and over again, like in a this circle
That's
of
very well said. We are asking questions, and by asking questions, more answers are coming.
And more questions.
And more questions.
And more questions. Yeah. It's so the interesting thing is that from what I read in the book, you've experienced what they call paranormal, which is encountering obviously spirit beings that passed, right? Mostly. So I remember reading an experience, I think your grandmother, you talked about her. That was pretty pretty,
She's
nice.
showing up right now as I'm talking about
Oh.
it.
So she's here.
I could feel it. Yeah,
Oh,
I could
yeah, she popped in.
feel her coming in. We could feel it. If we talk about people that deceased, a
Yeah,
lot of the times they come in because we're talking about it.
that's
So
such a,
yeah,
yeah.
I don't forget. I forgot the year. Let's say I was 17 or 18, somewhere
Mhm.
teenager. And my grandmother had died, and the night of her funeral, all of a sudden, I see in the hallway. I'm in bed, and I see in the hallway like a shimmer,
Mhm.
like a white light. And I'm looking, and it's like somebody with like a white sheet over them. And I'm looking, I'm like, Grandma, is that you? And she just pulls like the sheet over her, and there she's standing, and she says, "Yep, it's me." And I'm like, "Whoa, you just died. You're right here in front of me." And I had this list of questions, like this curiosity, right?
Yeah.
Whoa, she's
Mhm.
here. So I start asking questions, and I'm like, "So where are you? Where are you? Do you see grandfather back?" Because her husband had died years before
Mhm.
from a heart attack. I'm like, "Do you see grandpa back?" And she's like, "Yes, we are back together." And she has this deep peace in her, right?
Mm.
I said, "What about my dog?" I must have been 19 or 20, 19 or 20, because my dog was died a year before or something.
Oh,
I said, "What about my dog?" And she was like, "Well, they're somewhere here, but not right here with me. So like they're around, but not here with me." So I'm firing these questions. And then she says, "Well, I want you to know that I am completely at peace." And she transferred to me that deep inner solid peace where she was at. I could
mm.
feel it. It was like she was giving me that. I could feel where she was at. It
Okay.
was deep peace. It was incredible. It was so beautiful. And then
Mm.
she was also saying, "And I want you to know, when somebody dies, she wanted to bring over that information, that
Yeah.
there's no need for grief.
Mm.
There's no need, because if you would know the feeling of where she's at, or when people die, what they experience, we wouldn't go into the emotion. We would be excited, right? To know where they're at."
It's
So she was telling
interesting.
that. And then, so she wanted me to know that. And then she says, "Well, now I have to go," because she couldn't. And I learned since then, she had to lower my vibration,
Her vibration.
right? Her vibration. She had to
Mm-hmm.
lower to match mine, and to be able that I was able to see her, right? And she says, "I have to go now," because she could just vibrate there for
Wow.
that moment in time
Wow.
there.
It just brings up a lot of questions.
Uh-huh.
She's very happy that you're relating this
You
story.
feel it?
Oh
Okay.
gosh, yes. She's
Yeah.
feeling pretty strong. Yeah,
She's
That's
gives me shivers all over my
really,
spine.
you
Yeah,
know, you
yeah.
guys are like this.
Yes, we're
We are.
we are. So anyways, then she said, "I have to go." So she started fading. And I was like, "Okay." I mean, you know, she had to go, she had to go. I was like, "Okay." And she just kind of evaporated. She kind of disappeared. And then I was like, "Whoa." And it was right awake then, right? Because I was like an in-between state when I was kind of ready to go to bed, like
Yes. Yeah.
where my
Very,
consciousness.
very important state. Yeah.
Yes,
Hmm.
where the
Totally understand.
consciousness, yeah, was
Yeah.
my mental busyness of the day was disappearing, and that's where she
Yeah.
could meet me.
Yeah.
So I'm completely sitting up in my bed. I'm like, "Whoa." I said, "Tomorrow morning," because it was in the night. Uh, I'm gonna tell my mom. So the next morning was, "Mom, I have to tell you, she showed up and she's fine." And I was so excited telling my mom. I was so
Wow.
excited, but my mom was sitting in the kitchen in her grief, in her confusion, probably of just her mom was gone. She heard me, she heard the words, but how much that really got to her emotionally, I don't know. Um,
Wow.
but I was all excited. I am excited because the worlds, the meeting of our world with the other worlds is one of the most fascinating things to me.
Absolutely. And I think you said something, a very important point, and that's that you were at a vibration, at a state of almost falling asleep, whereas where you're very relaxed and you can really communicate, or they communicate with you at that point. But because if you're stressed out there trying to go through traffic, they're not going to visit you.
Right,
I mean, it makes sense, right?
right.
So did you have, after that experience, more kind of psychic, what they call it, mediumship? Is that what is called, where you are able to kind of go into that realm of them?
I'm very I pick up a lot of stuff, and
Okay.
sometimes things that I don't even want to see, but it
Yep,
comes with it.
because
It
there's
comes
the
with
good and
it.
the bad, right? There's
Right.
a
And in the same
mhm.
vein as my grandmother, I had animals come to me with messages also in that state. Some were dying, some just needed to go out to the bathroom and they showed up. I explain that in the book.
Oh,
So I have that, and I pick up from people. If I see people like couples too in relationships, I can read. I mean, I don't think about it. I could just see how they're doing, how they're relating. I have all these senses, and I had that since a
yeah,
very small child. And I think
interesting.
it partially it happened through the abduction experience. When you go through traumatic experiences, and it doesn't
Yes.
matter which ones you go through, and kind of we all have some in our
Yeah,
lives,
yeah,
but the ones I went through, I think it kind of broke open my
yeah.
psyche because of the
Hmm.
trauma I went through, and
Yeah.
that kind of opened my senses. That's what I think.
I think you're on point. From my humble experience with some relatives that have gone through traumatic, and then they have these abilities to see beyond. So I totally see the parallels there for sure. So that's very fascinating. And Paul, you basically changed your career completely due to the fact that you were
Yes.
experiencing these
Yeah, so that experience, so I waited for this package to show up, right? And it didn't show up. And so I'm like, where is it? Anyway, so about a year and a half later, I decided to change careers completely because I thought, well, this has to do something with, well, electronics. They have to be able to read energy and then change energies. And that's as far as I knew at that time. And so I closed my practice and I went down to San Francisco and studied computers, programming and operations. I thought, well, it's got to be in that realm. Now, this is very early on in the computer world. They were mini computers, not the little micros that we use now, but
Mhm.
mini computer. And I learned how to program and learn several languages. And that was fascinating. So I thought, well, it's got to be in there somewhere. And that led me on that path to get into the electronics world, and medical applications of computers is what I called it. And I did a lot of consulting with different practices that were trying to computerize their practices. So I helped them find the right computer system for their practices because I could talk to the computer people, I could talk to the doctors, I could talk to their office help, and we could make a good match
Mm.
for something that would help in their practices.
But you kept going further, and I think you were started to get into the healing modalities. Is that correct?
Well, after that, I mean, I was in that situation, but at the same time, I was still very interested in the medical side of it. I'd been trained, of course, in the Western medical system,
Hmm.
but I've had an experience in that was that changed my life too. When I was in dental school, we had a visiting group from China that were doing anesthesia just with acupuncture.
I've heard about that. That's a
So yeah,
fascinating.
so I saw that when I was in third year of dental school, and it was very interesting. We were at a big medical complex, medical school complex, so there was dentists, nurses, doctors, and they had this demonstration. So I went to the demonstration, and there were a number of nurses, a few dentists, and not one MD student showed up for the demonstration.
Mm.
So they had been taught, or that's wonky, or that's woo woo. Don't go there. But it was amazing, and when I saw that happen, that also was a big clue that like they're just using, working with the meridians, and that. So that led me again later to go into massage therapy or
Awesome.
body work, working with the
Oh, you have both. You have the
energetic body.
Western and the
Yeah. So I had
mechanical aspect, and then
yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So then I went and followed that for quite a while. Now it doesn't pay anywhere near as well as dentistry does, but I wasn't interested in the money. I was interested in the healthcare and how this would help people.
Uh,
And so I was very happy to do that. In that process, that's how Mieke and I met.
well, that's where I was going to go eventually.
Yeah.
So as you were going, obviously, in these directions of inquiry and self-discovery, and finding out what was this happening to me, you guys you met in a retreat, correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I was following alternative healing schooling in Belgium. And that was, it started with the power of color, the power of sound, reading energies, and some shamanism. So this alternative healing school. And Paul, you want to share yours? You were doing the
I
same
was doing
thing.
the same thing in
Mm.
Oregon. It was a school called the Practical School of Wisdom and Compassion, in which we studied all kinds of energies and different forms of healing,
Mm.
different modalities. And I was learning a lot. It was very, very exciting. Now, I still hadn't gotten this package, but that didn't matter because I was following this
The
pathway,
package
which was,
was for you to figure it out, I think.
well, that's what I thought too. And actually, that's another part of the story, but that didn't matter. So I was going to the school. The two people that were teaching me, well, one of them was Dutch and was Belgian. Excuse me. Yeah, he was Belgian. Frank Kopeters was his name, and he was the one that founded this school. He and another woman had founded the school.
Mhm.
So I was in there, and we were in the second year of that school, and they decided to have a joint retreat with Americans and Belgians. So they brought 30 Belgians over, and we found places for them to stay with our students. And so we had a great, great time and a get together. We thought, well, what happened? We have two different worlds, two different cultures here. Let's see how it's going in different cultures,
Mhm.
which we did, and it was amazing. It was very, very good. Now, most of them could speak English, and I spoke very little Dutch. So it
That
was
didn't
most.
matter.
Big zero. So, yeah.
We
Wow.
speak several languages in Belgium,
That's
so that's easy. It was easy.
It was easy for her. So that's it. So
Mhm.
we came together, and
Magically, because you got to read the book. I encourage people to definitely read it because it was so lovely how it happened and so seamlessly, I guess, from my point of view, how you both got together. Yeah.
well, we had a great deal of resistance to getting together for a number of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I had just come out of a divorce
Mm.
uh, and child custody case. Now I ended up with the custody of my three young kids, very young
Wow.
kids, but we had attorney's fees and the whole court trial thing, and that wasn't fun. It was very.
It's
Well, I just say it was a kind of a nasty experience, and I just didn't want anything to do with that ever again. So I swore off relationship. I swore off ever doing anything else. Well, I had three kids to raise, and I was working three different jobs just
wow.
to make enough money to raise these kids. And so I had no time, no money for
There's a
relationship at
lot.
that time. But
Yeah.
I wasn't completely closed down from it, as you know. As
Mm-hmm.
a young man, I was like, well, if something shows up, that'd be great. But I was not looking. So
Mm-hmm.
And same with me. I just had a few long-term relationships and I was kind of going from one into the other. And I realized I need to learn to be by myself because I was not comfortable being alone. And I said, I need to learn that. So I consciously said, no relationships. I went to the healing class to kind of figure out how to handle myself and everything that was going inside and all the
Mm-hmm.
experiences I had in confusion. So I learned a lot about the alternative healing and myself in those classes. So I was going to the retreat in the first place to learn and to discover myself. I was not looking for a relationship. But then miracles happened, one after the other, and we were shown
yeah,
many, many, many things, which we always
Yeah,
also
that you
share.
didn't ignore because obviously it was like, you know,
we
in
tried
your
to
face
ignore it.
kind of.
Vicki, we tried to ignore it because it didn't make any sense. We have different ages, different
Mm,
cultures, different languages, lived in two different parts of the world.
mm,
Nothing made sense on that deal.
There was nothing logic about it.
no logic. And we just
Mhm.
kept saying, no, 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 we're not doing this. We're not doing this. But we did keep in touch. So,
And the things that happened, like I said, it's half an hour to share all of them, all the things that happened.
Hopefully we can talk about
If
it.
there's any you want to share us, we could do. But so many things happened that were so profound that we're like, what does that mean? That's kind of where we were, both of us. Like, what, why is this happening?
I mean, the average person who's not looking for, to self-improve would not have probably capture these moments that you guys had, the synchronicities, right?
Exactly.
So you guys
well,
were in the right place at the right time to capture these things that actually got you together.
Right.
that happened over and over. And so
Mhm.
spirit, whatever, had to hit us over the head again and again. And we kept saying, no, no. So what we really did resist moving into a relationship. It was almost a year.
Now maybe we can share each one that was profound.
Absolutely.
I mean, profound. That was just
Yeah,
interesting as
please.
part of the story. So Paul was walking in the woods with his small kids. So Christopher was what, just 4 or something.
Yeah, 4.
Angela was like 5 or 6, and Andrew was like 8.
8. Yeah, 4, 6, and 8.
And Paul was walking in the woods, and I was coming with my Belgian friend from the lodge. We just had lunch or breakfast. I think it was breakfast. Going back to our wood cabins in the woods. It's a natural, beautiful setting. Hot springs in Brighton Bush, Oregon. And we're going back to, me and Elian walk to our cabin, and I see Paul there in the woods with his kids. And I was telling Elian, I said, Elian, I said, look at Paul there. I said, do you see how he's treating these kids so lovingly and kind and patient? And Christopher had an upset, and he was just kneeling down and just calmly talking to them and holding their hands. It was so beautiful. I said, do you see how he's treating these kids? And then I pointed with my finger, said, that quality I want to find in a partner. So I was putting my wish out in the universe, like, that's what is attractive to me. That's what I want. I wasn't looking for a relationship.
Not this body.
I wasn't thinking about Paul and the kids, but I said, I learned since, if you really know what you want, the universe can deliver it to you.
Beautiful.
Anyway, so that was one of the many things in Brighton Bush that started happening. And you want to share one of them?
Yeah, so let me share the one that really got my attention is, and it has to do with the picture on the front of the book.
Oh, show it. Oh, that's beautiful. There you go. My life is a mystery. Beautiful background. I love it.
Well, that's the piece that I saw. So we were doing these
Oh,
exercises.
yeah, I remember this part on the book. Yeah, go ahead.
So
yeah.
One day, and I don't know what it was, Wednesday or something, the men all laid on the floor and the women danced and sang and drummed for an hour. It's a beautiful experience. Well, I was on kid duty that day.
So that was honoring the divine feminine.
Honoring the divine feminine. Yeah. And no, that was honoring the divine masculine.
Right. So we had 2 days. Yeah.
2 days. So that was honoring the divine masculine. I missed that part, which I really would like to experience. Anyway, the next day, we did the same thing in reverse. The women all laid on the floor, and us men danced and drummed and sang for an hour.
Which was very powerful and also very intimidating. All those men's voices and in those drums. I had my eyes closed, and
that masculine, the testosterone was coming out, like, I mean, in a positive way.
It was very honoring powerful. And very respectful. It was just very beautiful.
Wow.
But so powerful that it was intimidating too. Anyway.
So the process was over, and everyone was getting up, and as is usual in those situations, if you know a group of people, well, they'll mill around and hug or say things to each other, kind of greet. Well, Mieke was across the room from me. She was about 20 feet away, and I looked over and I saw the strangest thing. I looked in her eyes, and I saw this galaxy in her eyes, and 2 people dancing around the galaxy. Hence the picture in the deal. So 2 people dancing around this galaxy. I had never seen anything like that before. I mean, it really stood out. Now, she was quite a ways away, so how I saw that in her eyes, I don't know, but I did. And it was like, wow, that's incredible. Well, I'm not telling her anything about that. I barely knew who this woman was. I'm not going to say, hey,
Yeah, she'll probably see like, see you later, Paul.
that would have certainly cinched it. Yeah. So I didn't say anything. I was like, no.
Wow. So let me ask you a question, if I may,
Sure. Yeah,
because
please.
would you say that you guys are soulmates, soul twin flames? Do you know where I'm going with this, right?
Well, I
If
don't
you
want
want, if you feel comfortable, you know.
Oh, sure.
I personally prefer not to label anything or to put it
Hmm.
in a box, or because we all do that, right? We want to
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So and as you hear other experiences, it's not the first time we meet. We've met
Okay.
before in other
In
lives,
other
in
lives, I'm
other
pretty sure.
frequencies, and our coming together was set up by us, I believe, that we would come together and recognize each other through all these experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So soulmate, I think all of it, but I really don't want to
You don't want
start
to,
making boxes from what's what. I'm not interested in that at
I
all.
gotcha. That makes
Just
sense because it
know
keeps it open and you know,
exactly.
to
And
the
we did,
possibilities. Yeah.
yeah, Vicky, we did look at all of those things. What are soulmates?
Yeah.
What are twin flames? And we went through all those things and
All of it.
all of it, but it was like yes and no on everything. And so so we decided at that point, let's not label this because
Mm-hmm.
it's not something that was really
Yeah.
tangible enough to
And
label.
somehow, so we're all one, right? We're actually ultimately all connected from one source.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's kind of funny. I think that part of us that's connected says, okay, let's have fun with this. Let's do
Yes.
two different cultures.
Two different
Let's be born in two bodies.
Let's go a little crazy. I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
Let's make
Two
this
cultures,
challenging.
two generations, 21 years difference.
Yeah. Wow.
Male, female, and
Mm-hmm.
let's explore from all these realms together, and then we will come together at a certain point, and we keep exploring and sharing.
It's a
So
never ending.
what a better plan, I don't know, we could have made this way. So
It was definitely a tenuous route to be together.
Wow.
To come
So
back to, I should say, yeah.
because I met you at GSIC, obviously we have something in common, which was the amazing information that the panelists brought, you know, to us in person.
Mhm.
What particularly from that did make you come to GSIC? It was the galactic part, which is always, or was it the you know, the science, the history? It was everything.
we've done a lot of we've done many of the Starworks USA conferences with Paula Harris, and what we do actually, we meet people and we use our intuition and discernment to see
And our
who are
feeling,
these
yeah.
people, you know, who are they, how do they present themselves, do they
Hmm.
speak from their heart and their own experiences, or do they just tell stories that they read or some. So
Correct.
how true. I'm very interested in people's personal experiences
Absolutely.
because I can feel they're talking from their heart. They
Yeah.
don't have nothing to lose. It's just sharing because it's freeing when you share your experience. So
And you
that's
felt.
one of the reasons why we went to GSEC,
Hmm.
because I really want to meet Laura Eisenhower in person. I
Hmm.
met her several years just through following
You went
her.
to the first one then. You went to the
Yes, we
first
went
one
First
to
and
and the second
second.
because I met you on the second one.
and the second
Okay.
one.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we just want to meet people in person and intuitively feel who are they, and then coming together with other people that are experiencers, and
Mm.
that are bringing more information. It's just wonderful
And you
to be,
felt
yeah,
at at home, kind of like with a group of people that you felt resonated with.
exactly.
Definitely. And the first one that we did that with was Travis Walton. And Travis
Oh,
Walton is,
you talked about him on the book, which was the
yeah,
gentleman.
Travis
If
Walton was,
yeah, go ahead, talk about.
Travis Walton, meeting him was what allowed us to, or, we went to a film festival in which they did a number of films, and two of the films or one of the films was Fire in the Sky, and they
Mm-hmm.
had a documentary about Travis
Mm-hmm.
Walton, and he was there, and the filmmaker was also there. Two or three people were there.
Jennifer Stein.
Jennifer Stein,
Mm-hmm.
and so we got to meet them, and it was a small conference, so we got to actually talk to them and meet them and be face to face with them. Same thing that we talk about, so we could feel these people. They were real. Travis is very humble.
Mm-hmm.
He's a wonderful, soft spoken, but very, very Beautiful man. So we went to that conference, and that was in what,
2016.
2016, uh, in Santa Rosa, Arizona.
And the reason why we went there, so I had abduction experiences, and he was like the first one that shared his.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Fire in the Sky Hollywood version shows his abduction experience, and he disappeared 5 days and came back. I suggest everybody watching that.
And then there was
And then
another documentary, correct? That you
Yes.
you said that
it's
you
a
prefer.
movie.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then the other documentary, yeah, that's his personal life story about it, which is very, very wonderfully done, really informative. So, because of my experiences, I said, wow, that's the first person. He's going to be here. We were living in California, and he's going to be here in Sonoma. I want to see him. I want to feel him. Again, it's about feeling people, right?
Meet this person and see who they are, or sense
Mm-hmm.
who they are.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I was like, how do you handle that? How do you speak in public about that? How do you handle the all these people and
backlash. Yeah.
the backlash?
And the backlash.
How do you handle yourself being so publicly talking about it? I wanted to see how he was doing that. So how'd you do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I learned a lot, and I knew he's definitely genuine. His story is real, and it helped me and Paul deciding, well, if he can talk about
If he can do it,
we can do
then
it.
we can come
Yeah.
out. Yeah,
So-
because we knew from each other's story.
Yeah.
Now let's bring that out.
Mm.
And so we did. We had several just group meetings in our living room, and we'd bring people in
Wow.
and say, this is what we're going to do. Mostly people that we had already known. But then we shared that and shared experiences, and that they shared their experience. The people that would come in would share their experiences. And so it's very freeing. Yeah.
And it was only after we got married, after all these synchronicities, we finally got the message, and then we got married. And after we got married, some other thing happened in the sky, and that was what initiated us starting to talk together about UFOs. And we started both realizing, wait a minute, we both have experiences, and that's how it started for us to come together and talk about it.
Perfect.
We were newly married, and so it still hadn't shared anything about that, except this event happens that Mieke experienced, and she said, well, it actually scared her quite a bit. And you want to say this?
Yeah. So I was, go ahead.
Well, are you remembering certain things about your abduction? Are you able to already speak more about it?
Sure.
How did you go through the process of remembering? Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, that is the remembering. So the things I do remember, right? So I was born in 1970. So those abductions started 72, 73 and on. So I do remember I go to bed at night, and all of a sudden I am finding myself, or I'm being taken to, and it is a process of, noise and vibrational disturbances. I am being taken to a foreign place, where a metal bed, I remember, cold metal bed. I was completely naked in my small little body, laying down. I was freezing. I was terrified. I was terrified and paralyzed by my own fears. But I know they also use technology, and it makes sense now, thinking back on it, that I was also not able to move because of the technology they use to immobilize you. But I do remember. And I am laying on that bed, and I'm looking up, so I can only recall what I see from looking up. I do remember below the table were other small little things moving, but I don't know what they were, who they were. I just heard them shoveling around. But what I did see from my vision above was like three, but two were the main like I call them premantis afterwards. I didn't have any names. If afterwards hearing people talking about some features, they were insects. They had, it looked like a premantis with those stalky moves, right? And those claws,
lengthy
and like
arms with,
right, and a face that was triangle and just big eyes. It was like a premantis. If I see premantis, I say, yeah, that was the closest that I can recall to, but I'm not sure what it really was. And they're poking with their claws like instruments in my body, in my abdomen, and they just do stuff in me, and I can't move, and I'm just horrified. I can't even make any noise. I am just completely in terror. I don't know
And
how
how
to.
old you were? 2, you remember
Two
this?
and a half is the earliest I remember.
And this was this memory, if I may probe a little bit, it was a recollection that you have now, or you just remembered since you were
No,
a little
I
girl?
remember. There was,
Wow.
yeah, it was not, yeah, no. I remember then. So then the next thing that happened, those things happen, and the next thing I happened, I'm back in my bed at home. Sometimes I was different than I was going to bed one way, I ended up the other way.
Wow.
But I'm back in my bed, and I am still in this horrified state. I have flashes of this memory.
Mm,
Then they fade fast too, but I had those flashes, and
mm.
with this little 2.5-year-old mind, I have to come up with a strategy, what I'm going to do. I mean, I'm like in complete survival mode, right? What
Wow.
I'm going to do. So I over the years, then I had like three things I did. I decided I'm going to run to my parents' house room on the other side of the hallway. But I knew the hallway was very dark, and there's other ghosts and stuff hanging there. Am I brave enough to do that, to get to my parents' room? So sometimes I did that. I just braved myself up and run through the hallway and climb
Oh,
in their bed.
wow. I mean, you were
Yeah,
just like barely 3, right?
right.
And you,
I think what I first did when I was smaller was screaming or crying, maybe, because that was another thing. Just scream,
you couldn't, yeah.
call for my parents, and in the hope they're going to come, which sometimes they did. But then it was even more traumatic because they had no idea. They thought I had a nightmare, so they said it's just a nightmare, it will be over.
Yeah.
Me knowing if I close my eyes or something, I can go right back to it,
Interesting how
right?
nightmares have a different connotation now.
Exactly,
Uh,
exactly.
wow.
So that was a trauma even more because I had nobody I could relate to, and I had nobody till I was in my 30s. So I
Uh,
carried that experience, not acknowledged by any outside authority or inner authority. I carried that till in my 30s, till then I got confirmed. But
And you
that
felt
was
they
the
were negative? Were they negative entity, or did you, well, because you were in fear, you felt that they were negative? You know what I'm saying?
I only recall it being horrifying.
Mhm.
My logical mind says there is a purpose. They're not doing this for
Yeah.
torturing me. There was a medical, it felt to me there was a medical reason for it. So they
Okay.
had their function.
But at that time,
Um, well, at that time, I only had flashes of memory, right? So I had this memory flash, and I'm back in my bed, and I'm trying to get to my parents, and I had to calm myself down.
Wow.
And then the third thing I sometimes did was just pulling the sheets over my head and think very loud, trying to distract myself from the experience I just had,
Wow.
which is like retreating in my mental stage, which I am now still in a way trapped because of those traumatized experiences.
Hmm.
I retreat easily in that mind, and then there's mind control techniques being done anyway. So
Wow.
it's been a journey.
Did you feel that you have been able to understand why that happened, and you're able to now kind of let go of that trauma because of that? Of the
It's still
understanding.
a daily journey, and some days I'm doing good,
Yeah.
and some days I am still trapped in that mind and that fear.
Mm.
So good to have a wonderful person next to me who knows what I went through and what I'm dealing with, and we help each other. We're a good team. But I have many insights now. I also learned later on that I can communicate with them and tell them what I want. So I learned that I have my power. I will share the experience
Hmm.
quickly. So in my 20s, I was laying down it was then the time that I was on my own, just learning to let go of relationships and be by myself. I'm laying on my stomach, and all of a sudden there's two beings in my room next to me, one on each side. And I am like on my stomach, so I can't really
Back.
And I feel they're measuring my back in 3 exact parts, like they're like measuring. I don't know if they told me they were doing that. I don't know. I just knew they were measuring my back in 3 parts. And then they had like a syringe or some needle, something they're inserting in one part. And it was horribly painful. And I go like, I go like shocking. Like it got me in the core of my being. And I'm just trying to get back to my balance, and then they go to the second part and whang again, and I'm just screaming again, and they and then the third part, and then I was like, no way, and I turn around, got completely turned around, and they're gone. So then that night I go to my alternative healing class teacher, Alice, that was the teacher in the night. And I say, and she's open, she's aware, she's, she's a doctor, she's a homeopath, she's a visionary, she's full booked months ahead.
She's amazing.
She's amazing. Anyway, I tell her that. I said, hey, can I share my experience? So then she asked me a question, and she asked, do you think they're benevolent or not? Like you just asked. And I'm thinking for a second, and I give her the same answer I gave you. Like, well, they were obviously doing something on purpose with a plan and an agenda, more like doctors or surgeons or, whatever. I don't think that was to really horrify me, or, I didn't see that they were doing it by intent to horrify me, but it was horrifying. But she says, you know what? I think they have no clue what it is to be in a body. In a human body with its nerves and its feeling and its senses. They have no clue what they're doing to you, right? And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. She says, you better tell them. I'm like, that makes sense. So I went home and I sit in the couch and I said, okay, guys, let's kind of have the conversation. Okay, guys, I don't know who you are or what you're doing. Somehow I feel we're working together. You're working with me, but you have no idea what it is to be in a human body with, I repeated what Al said, with nerves and feelings, and you have no idea what that does to me. And I'm not okay with that. You're doing it like that. So if we are working together and you want me to keep working with you, you will have to find other ways to handle me, because I'm not okay with this pain, and I'm not working with you anymore if you can't figure out another way. That's what I said. And I have since then not had any painful experiences.
Interesting.
So I kind of learned that, well, they might be aliens, but I'm as powerful as they are, and I have a say, and I have a sovereignty like they do. And we are so used to be slaves. We are so used to be told what to do, so used to be put below others who are authoritarian. And I learned in that moment, like, no, I have my own sovereignty and I can set my boundaries. That was kind of a great experience. So I did that, and I don't know if that answered your question.
Well, you know as much as you can, right now. There's more probably to understand about the situation from your personal experience. So I think it seems like that there's definitely something there when it comes to how, when you said you were working with them or vice versa, there may seem something there, that you still don't remember.
Exactly.
So
I'm always interested in the biggest picture possible. And I do know, or I feel personally, that I came in this life and I set up certain things, right? Now, and then we have free will, have to respond to them, right? Now, that free will thing, I'm just starting to really understand what that means. As I grew up, I did not know I had free will, and I did not know how that functioned. I'm starting to do that. But on a bigger picture, I believe that I choose to be born where I'm born. I choose to be born with the parents and the people around me to learn certain things. And I believe I chose to be part of this experience, going through it, partially to learn from myself, to also learn that I can handle a lot. And even the biggest traumas, you can go through it, you can come out it, and you can keep moving on. That we are so resilient. I learned that.
Yeah.
And then I also learned that I'm going to say that I am probably part of this bigger story of the history of humankind in
Yeah.
relationship to ETs,
Mm-hmm.
that we are part ET too. I believe we are a mix that we've been tankered with, and I know there's tankering things, and that all
Mm-hmm.
has to do with DNA and
Mm-hmm.
upgrading, and to see as human beings what we can and how can we can evolve and awareness and consciousness. It's a
Yeah.
big story, and I think
Yeah.
I chose to be part of that, and then to be able to share with other people. I feel that.
That sounds like a good point to make. And you, Paul, what do you think? Are you in
Well,
the same lines of?
well, my experiences were very beneficial. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I didn't have the scary part
Mm-hmm.
of the interactions with the aliens. So to me, they were just beings. They'd coming in, they got rid of my headache. I was pleased. Then they showed me this incredible technology,
Mm-hmm.
which again I was very pleased with, and that changed my career path, my what I was interested in,
Mm-hmm.
and what I studied from that point on. So to me, it was all beneficial and benevolent, and so I
And
didn't have this the fearful things. At least
absolutely, I think that's the beauty of it, that we all experience it in a somewhat similar at times, but unique for each one of us. Did you have the opportunity to see them, or you just heard them when that you were
they
sitting
were
down?
behind
They were
Mickey, they were
behind you.
behind me when I was in that
Mm-hmm.
chair, and so I could see that they were there. They were taller than the chair by
Mm-hmm.
far, but that they could have been 5 feet. They didn't have to be.
So you sense them behind.
Well,
You have
I
the
could
sense.
see that when they brought their arm around to do this
Oh,
thing, so I
you
saw
didn't
that
see
much.
their face, no.
No, no, I wish I had because it would be.
Mhm.
Then I could say,
Yeah.
well, it's this kind or that kind, but
Yeah. Actually, it's Ted and David. No, I'm just kidding.
no, yeah. Well, but the whole thing left me, in my experience, it left me with lots of questions,
No,
but
I
a
bet.
very curious feeling. Like, who are they? What are they doing? Now, how did they find me? How did they figure this whole thing? I mean, there's all those questions, and so I continue to be with those. But
Yeah.
again, I do know that this technology is on the planet now, and it has been for a long time.
Wow.
And it's similar to the medbed type technology that we're learning about. And
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Interesting.
so it is here, and I actually have. Uh,
Depending on who has it, because we're in this controversial time and space, with everything going on. I guess it's a little
yeah,
delicate, right?
we
Who
were
has
not
it, who
privy. Yeah.
doesn't? Huh?
Well, my sense is this is my sense, Vicky. They came in, showed me this deal. They also probably showed other people, and at some point that they were contacted or they made contact,
Mm-hmm.
and people said, "Oh yeah, that's very good. Bring it to us, and we will make sure that it's handled well." Well,
Yeah.
they basically got hijacked into certain elite people that got
Yeah.
to use that technology.
Yeah.
So that was from 1979 till I just recently found out that that technology is here. So
Mm.
what is that, 20,
Wow.
30, wait,
30
20,
years.
40, yeah, 40 years.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. There's so much here, and obviously we can talk forever. That there's one thing before we
Sure.
stop. But there's a beautiful story that I think I would like to talk about, that you wrote on the book, about that connection you had with your dog when he passed. That was
Mm.
very touching, and it showed me, and it confirmed how we're connected, and that even through passing, when we think about death, it's basically a continuum in a different level, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest with you, I had a similar experience with my dog. And when I read your story, I just started because obviously I was crying, because I'm like, that touched me, and the way you put it together so lovely, and how it went. Would you talk about it a little bit, if you can, because I know it's very, sensitive, and I
Oh,
hope we don't go
sure.
into this crying mode, but
No, it's a
just to leave
powerful.
the audience with that beautiful story of you and Paul.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So in Belgium, I had my golden retriever, Rika,
Hmm.
and he was, when I moved to the US, I brought, of course, my baby with me, and we even moved to Hawaii with him. I mean, he's been part of our story.
Mhm.
And in 2003, we were just coming back from Belgium, and we come back, and I could see my dog was not in a good state. And the next few days, at one moment, he was laying outside, and he wasn't moving anymore. His body completely collapsed, but his eyes were just like his awareness and his consciousness was right there with me, right? So I
Hmm.
look at his eyes, he's looking at me, he's right there like he always is, but his body just collapsed.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, we need to go to the vet. So we put him into the truck, drive to the vet. I told the kids, stay home. I wish I let them go with us because that was the last moment that he was with us. We go to the vet, and the vet says, yeah, I mean, there's nothing. And I knew it was just time to go. Now, it was harder for Paul than for me, it was a knowing. He was like, what? We have to let him go now? I said, yeah, we need to let him go. I mean, so we decided then to give him a shot, and there at the doctor's and to be with him. And we sang to him and sit with him.
I
It
know.
was the powerful, everybody who had to put their dogs or animals down know how deeply moving that is, right? So,
Yes,
but we give
for
him,
both of us, yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we give him the shot, and we knew then he would like fall asleep, and there's stages of and then letting go.
Hmm.
So we give him the shot, and at that moment, I could feel his soul leaving his body and coming back into me.
Hmm.
And for me, it was like I got this knowing that my dog was one of my own projections of parts of me projected into this dog as this dog. Like I believe our whole outside world is a projection of our own consciousness, right?
Mm.
So in that moment, I realized that my dog was a projection outside of me. And at the moment he left his body, it was like a part of me that completely came back into me. So I felt more
Mm.
complete and whole after the dog left his soul left his body as when we were separated in two different
Wow.
bodies. It was
Interesting.
incredible. And I'm just feeling this, and it felt like being more complete, like a piece of my soul was returning to my soul.
Interesting.
So my soul felt more complete after this, and I was like in this awe and in this, whoa, what is this? Right now for
Mm.
Paul, that was a little different story.
Yes, I was really touched deeply, at the passing of. I'd grown very fond of
Yeah.
Rika. We had great times together, uh, swimming and running around, and just good buddies. I mean, we really connected very very well. Now, it was still Mika's puppy dog, and so she had a
Hmm.
strong, and obviously in this interaction. But I was torn up when
Mm.
when we had to put him to sleep. Yeah.
And then we had to
Oh.
go home and tell the kids he was not there anymore. So I wish the kids were part of this, but I didn't know in that moment I had to let him go till I
Got
knew.
there. Yeah.
Anyway,
Wow.
but so I believe we're all part of each other, and
Yeah.
we're
All
our
connected.
souls are
Yeah.
kind of fractured into other people and then there's a moment that we return and be
Yeah.
one again, and that was such
That was
powerful,
profound. Very
powerful,
powerful and
Very
profound.
profound.
Yeah, that touched me because I did have an experience with my dog, and just to make it a little short, it was I had to drop him off. He was in a lot of pain, and I couldn't keep him at home because I couldn't give him pain medication, so I had to leave him at the ER, and it broke my heart to leave him there, but I couldn't do anything else, and I was exhausted. I was when I came home, I just dropped asleep because of my tiredness, but he woke me up when he passed.
Oh wow.
Yeah, as soon as he passed, he woke me up. He came into my being, and then 3, 5 minutes later, the vet calls me that he had passed. So I was like, wow.
Oh.
I was like, just talking about it now, I have to switch because obviously it'll bring a lot of memories, and I'll be like, "What?" But it was a part, and I've had that with other family members, like my father, that they come to you, you
Mhm.
know, they come to you, and then they just like, I didn't understand what it was, but there are a part of you. You are them and they are you. So
Mhm.
that part of you, I don't know, like you said, it came to you back. And I
Mm-hmm.
think he's part of me still, and my father's part of me still,
Mm-hmm.
and then we continue a journey, and you know, it is, even though there's a lot of hardships in our lives, but when we start to unveil all these stories, there's this beauty of it that gives you that, you know, rel relaxation and peace of of thinking, okay, there's more to it. It's not the end. It's just another form, another experience. And if we continue to, I guess, be open to that,
Mm-hmm.
it'll be a life that it's more filled with these beautiful experiences, other than, you know, uh, mourning to the point that you can't live, or you know what I'm saying?
Right,
Mhm.
right. It's the huge,
Yeah,
that devastating loss. As we understand these things more,
yeah.
that devastating loss will disappear, and it'll be more of a celebration. Like, oh, they're there, great.
Mhm.
But
Now,
we're just in this journey towards that right now. We
Right.
don't have it, particularly as a culture and as a people.
yeah.
We're letting go of the belief in separation, and
Mm.
we are reclaiming the unity of our connections.
No, it's absolutely beautiful. And with that said, I think this is a good time to leave it as this, but there's always going to be more time for me to invite you back. Um, I would love to. And first of all, thank you again for taking the time to be in my humble channel, which I'm slowly, I'm putting out things that are about life, real life, and sharing real people and real experiences with non-judgmental, because everybody has an experience. Everybody's going through a different journey, and we have to listen to, be open and listen, and hopefully others will be able to have, the courage, and because it helps to release it and to talk about it, and then to understand, okay, now I can understand and move on, or I can tweak this and go in this direction, or, and to have people that have gone through similarities, it's good to know. So I think you have opened my channel to more experiences for other people. And if
Good.
you know of anyone that wishes to talk, I mean, I explained to you that I do have some friends and family members, especially that are going through similar things. And I feel that as soon as they open up more to this and acknowledge that these weren't woo-woo things,
Mhm.
or
Mm-hmm.
negative things, I think every experience is necessary to grow. And the question is, what are you deciding to do with it? And we'll leave it as that, right? Is there anything you would like to say before we close our beautiful interview?
Well, we're always happy to talk to people, to share experiences, let other people share theirs. And yeah, we have our book on Amazon if you want to read the
Absolutely,
whole
please.
story.
I'll put a
And
link
it's history. Yeah. And we
so
also have
people can know.
a website that I'm kind of putting out myself. I learned some HTML. It's very basic. It's not modern at
I
all.
hear you.
But I
Mm,
have been writing for years my life story in episodes, and they're all for free. You can read them there. And the website is www.loveandlightbridge.com,
okay, I'll go
or in
ahead.
the same link, angelfire.com/music// light one. You can get there
Okay,
in two ways.
absolutely. I'll go ahead and plug those in at the end
And
of the interview. And you,
uh,
Paul?
Vicky, I want to say thank you very, very much for what you are doing in reaching out to people to explore these different parts of humanity, different parts of our
Absolutely.
experience, to make them um, more acceptable to more people. And we've
Yeah,
been told these things aren't okay, and they are okay. And just to
yeah,
tell people that if you've had experiences that you have never been able to talk to people about, talk to
yeah,
Vicky. She's got an
yeah.
open mind.
Yeah,
Who
and
knows?
it's opening me up to things that I put away because I thought, they were just nonsense, but it's coming back and it's like I said, this beautiful collage coming together. And it's fascinating, even though sometimes we want to know more.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's a reason why it's the way it's coming through on an
Mm-hmm.
individual basis. And it's for us to do the work as well, because obviously, it's part of it, but the journey itself,
Mhm.
so, and we're in times that I think I feel very optimistic, even though there's a lot of craziness out there. I feel that we're breaking through, and that the only way we can do that is being together and putting aside differences that divide us, and to come together and really in love and compassion to better this world, and just go and travel travel the universe.
There it is.
Maybe we're doing it already in our sleep, but I have a few dreams of that. But for now, we gotta put our feet on the floor here, right? Well, thank you both so much. Is there anything else that you would like to leave uh, our audience?
No, I want to say I'm very positive and optimistic too. Where we're moving into is so beautiful.
Yeah,
It's so unique, and we
yeah,
creating it as we go and just
hmm,
sharing this as part of the journey.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Paul and Micah, for being here. And I hope, in the near future, we'll have another one.
All
Okay.
right.
All
I'm
right.
looking
Thank you
forward to
both.
it. Thank you, Vicky.
Thanks.